I consider having a kid an act of faith, and I didn't for a long time. In part because it seemed somewhat unfair to the kid. I don't feel pessimistic right now. I think it's actually it was an amazing year to have a child. There was so much resistance and so many movements. I found out that I was pregnant while I was at Occupy Wall Street, and I mean, there's no doubt that there's a very difficult legacy for the next generation, but also for the one right now. I don't think anybody's getting off here, but it certainly is a very important reminder of what our responsibility is, and it lengthens your timelines. When you see those scientific projections, what the thing's going to be like in 2050 and 2060. It makes it a lot scarier for me, and I feel the sense of urgency all the more.
How do you sustain that sense of urgency? I think a lot of things that we've seen in the past decade, kind of they peak and then they fall back down. But this is definitely something that has to keep going for a long time. So how do we sustain that?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I went to a session this morning with someone from class was speaking from Quebec and from the Quebec student movement, and she was talking about the structure of their student movement, and it's I feel encouraged by the fact that there seems to be a recognition among this generation of activists that there needs to be structure, and there can also be direct democracy. These aren't mutually exclusive. I think from kind of my generation of activists, sort of my big political moment was the Seattle protests and all that, and I think that there was a fetish for disorganization almost, and what we found with that is that you are a blip, right? Because the mood changes. For us, it was 9/11 happened, and then you kind of disappear overnight because you haven't built structures, you haven't built institutions that carry a movement forward even in tough times. And what I see in this generation coming up is that they have learned from some of our mistakes. They're incredibly committed to direct democracy, but they also understand the need for institutions and structure. And I think that is really relevant to your question about urgency, because if you don't have structure, then you sort of have to be in that sort of panic state or fight or flight state or freak out mode all the time, and no one can sustain that. There's always going to be ebbs and flows, but you need institutions that can carry you through.